So, we're here with the Tournament 1 winner of the first Taipei Netrunner Tournament. Daniel, congratulations.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, so what did you play?
Let's see, I played Kit from Creation and Control for my Shaper deck, and then I played the original Wayland with all the transactions.
Absolutely. And what were you most surprised about playing in the tournament?
What was I most surprised about?
Yeah.
Well, let's see, I believe there were 12 of us, and so of the corporations, most of them were HP, and I was the only Wayland player, which surprised me a little bit at the time. I guess I'm not that surprised in hindsight. I mean, HP is really pretty strong right now. But that was, yeah. The other thing that surprised me, I guess I ran Kit. And
there's one other Kit player?
I think there was one other Kit player. Yeah. So I wasn't sure about Kit, and I ran 3 inside jobs using basically all my influence. And I realized as I was paging through my deck right before the tournament started, I said, this doesn't actually, I thought it was a combo, it was actually terrible with Kit.
Yeah, no, it doesn't
But they actually pulled me through some difficult situations in the tournament unexpectedly. Okay, cool. And as Wayland, you were not running any Scorched Earth, correct? Yeah, I didn't run any Scorched Earth.
Did you also have stuff in your deck that allowed you to tag still? Or was there no tag other than from like a random shadow? Or
yeah, I had no tags, which was a bit of a, a bit of a gutsy move. I think, Wayland with Scorched Earth is probably, better. But I was playing with the idea that most of the people there, had never played against me before. Played against me. I was an unknown opponent, and they would be playing around my Scorched Earth even if I didn't have it. So it's a bit of a risk because without Scorched Earth, Wayland doesn't have a lot of ways to close out games. Right. When the runner starts to get ahead in economy, and has his breakers, like Scorched Earth always gives you it gives you a bit of an X factor where you make the runner more conservative. My only way to really win games without just advancing was I had aggressive secretary, and that was kind of my
So that was the only trap you ran?
Yeah, that was my only trap. Okay. So that was really the only way for me to kind of win games without just kind of fast advancing, putting down a couple pieces of ice and protecting a couple big agendas.
So were you running any fast advance type cards, Trick of Light?
Oh, no. The main goal was play my transactions, get down some small ice, Chimera, Archer, whatever cheap ice I can get in front of my agenda, and then hopefully score 1 or 2 big ones like an Atlas with a couple points on it, and that will help me get the momentum to keep getting 1 or 2 more agendas pretty quickly. Because like I said, once the runner gets up to speed and has all of his breakers for there, it was very hard for me to do anything if I couldn't fool him with a trap.
Right. So aside from the aggressive secretary, were there any other cards that you felt like your deck specifically ran that you wouldn't see in other players' Wayland decks?
That you wouldn't see?
Maybe choices that you felt were different than what most Wayland decks would use. Obviously, Beanstalk Royalties, Ice Wall, Hadrian's Wall. These are things that are going to pop up in most Wayland decks. Was there anything you specifically chose, aside from the aggressive secretary, that you felt was a personal preference of yours? That you'd like to play in other decks, or that you'd seen other players use and wanted to be able to access in your deck?
In the Wayland deck, nothing really splashy I can think of. My outside influence, like I was using Roto Turret.
So Roto Turret, that's a great addition, absolutely.
And Toll Booth.
That's fantastic too.
Because Roto Turret I added in because I wanted to be able if I was playing against an admin deck, which was kind of the new nemesis on the radar at the time to be able to force them to have an at minute 0.
Absolutely.
And if not, I could, punish them. And the toll booth was actually kind of along that same line. I was thinking, okay, it's a 5 strength, and even if they have a pretty good run economy, they get taxed for free with the toll booth. So
yeah, an admin would be 4 and a data sucker token most times. So
yeah,
they probably had an admin at 0, 2, 4.
So if they hit me with a 4 in the data sucker wall, they still have to pay the tax.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I can. I probably won't be able to stop them, but you put that in front of HQ R&D, prevents them from
slows them down.
having the perpetual, run economy, which is the scariest thing about a deck like that, where they can essentially run your R&D or HQ for free if you only have cheap ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that was what I tried to do.
Okay.
It was outside influence.
Any thoughts on how you played as corporation? Were there any times where you felt like you made a terrible mistake, where you completely misread the runner? Were there times where you felt you knew exactly what the runner was going to do and you were able to react around it?
I felt like I played pretty consistently, with my corporation. Again, I wasn't running the sports dirt, but I tried to act like, I was running the sports dirt. I was counting the cards in his hand, doing the mind games.
You mentioned before a lot of the players you faced were new players, new Taiwanese players. Did you feel like, having had lots of experience, having played the game for almost a year now, you knew, you were able to know what they were thinking fairly well, fairly often? Or did any of them surprise you with some of the more advanced plays that you might not have thought they knew about? Maybe use of rules that new players you wouldn't normally expect them to know.
Sure. I mean, there were times when I felt like, well, a more experienced player might have dodged this. Like I said, the inside jobs. There was one game where I sold 3 agendas with 3 inside jobs, and I feel like a more experienced player would have said, after the first inside job, he would have said, wow, that's surprising because he's kit. But I should be prepared for number 2. And then, he put another, eventually, not the next turn, but he eventually put another agenda down and I took it. And I feel like a more experienced player would have dodged that. I played against an admin player. I rezzed an archer defending HQ, and he broke it with his data sucker. And then, but his data sucker had run out of counters. So then he ran archives, and there was another archer there, and I managed to trash his admins. And I feel like a more experienced player, would have looked at the agendas I had and the money I had and said, I mean, that was one archer. There is a chance that I'm going to get hit by something else, or I mean, it could have been a roto turret.
Right.
Because I feel like a more experienced player would have dodged the archer that won me that game. That got his breakers.
Yeah, archer is definitely one of the best pieces of ice and most threatening pieces of ice out there. The fact that on average it's going to cost the runner about $10 to break is just, it's just a fantastic threat for whaling. And any other deck that wants to splash it in. Once you see one archer, every run you make after that point, you pretty much know I have to break archer or my game could be over. So, yeah, it's a great play. And an archer on archives is great as well, as that's a common spot for admin to go in their counters. So that was a great play. Let's talk about the kit deck. How did you like running kit?
I thought it was really good. I mean, the first thing about the deck I would say is that the economy was solid. I had the professional contacts economy with professional contacts Katie
Jones.
Yeah, sorry. Katie Jones, excuse me. Katie Jones, Sure Gamble. So, a lot of economy for the cards that I draw. So I can just professional contacts, draw economy cards, keep going.
Great.
Which was useful. And I mean, and the actual code gate part of kit was pretty good. I ran the Cyber Cipher, which is really cheap, and it would let me focus in on one server. And one thing, actually, that caught a lot of people off guard is I also had scavenge. So I could re-aim the cyber cipher as it is. So scavenge the cyber cipher, aim it from R&D to HQ, and you know, that was...
Were you playing Femme Fatale as well?
Yeah, I was playing, so test run, Femme Fatale, scavenge, I was playing that.
Yeah.
So Femme Fatale is my, you know, the breaker actually, I was only running Code Gate Breakers and Femme Fatale, which was another risk. In hindsight, obviously the inside jobs were a bit weird. I would have taken out inside job and put some, at least a corroder, you know, since I had test run. But yeah, it was good. And you know, with the kit ability is a little unusual because it has you can only use her ability once per turn.
Right.
So frequently I would have to set myself up, okay, I'm only going to do one run this turn, you know, where am I going to aim it? Or you'd have to organize your run so that the one taking advantage of her ability would have to come first. So it was, you know, a little interesting mental games where I had to kind of think a little bit differently to make sure that I got my runs in correctly.
So your deck was a focus-based deck. You were trying to make one run and make the most out of those single individual runs.
Sure, yeah. And I was running like Maker's Eye, so I could, you know, make one big run on R&D, hit, build up, you know, like 2 turns later, do another Maker's Eye or something like that, you know.
Having played a lot of decks, both as the runner and against the runner, that run more constantly, like an admin deck, or a criminal deck that uses data suckers and as well. How do you feel the differences as a runner, being able to control the corporation with just a single focused run?
I mean, I think it really puts the corporation on edge because it's really hard to build up, you know, the perfect super server that has all the ice to keep me out.
Right.
So, you know, if I'm gonna hit you with I mean, especially, you know, when it comes to R&D, you know, I can hit you with a Maker's Eye, you know, pretty consistent, even if it's gonna cost me a lot. Well, I can just build up, you know, it's kind of an inevitability thing in some ways because it's like, well, okay, if you have 3 big pieces of ice, okay, I'll just make the money, build up Katie, and eventually I'll be able to come in with the Maker's Eye. Yeah. You know, and it's a good probability play when you're able to do that.
Did you find that versatility is a problem? If you found that maybe you got a read on your opponent that their hand was not as strong in terms of ice, or that maybe they had a few too many agendas in their hand, did you find you were still able to go and make runs and put pressure on remotes when they had weak ice?
Yeah, I felt like it was a problem, and like I said, if I was going to change the deck, you know, I felt like I had a strong economy. Like, when I made the deck, I think I had, you know, a little bit of blinders for the kit ability. I'm kit, I need to have code gates. Well, but if I have the barrier breakers, you know, the corroders, or whatever other ice breakers I want, you know, they give me more versatility in that way. So, yeah, I feel like if I had been a little bit more flexible, because the economy was really good. You know, it wouldn't have been a stretch for me to include some good breakers because, again, like I said, professional contacts, great money, and I dig pretty deep. So put 1 or 2 other, you know, breakers or way to, you know, hit their remotes or their HQ. Yeah, I think more versatility definitely would have helped.
What were some of the things that you found as kit running on the corporation side? What were some things, what were some plays that other players made? How did they stack up their ice in a way that you found hindering or that you thought they could have done better?
One thing that some people did against me is actually I find a lot of people actually not resing their ice. You know, if that makes any sense. I would run and there'd be a piece of ice there, and it's like, well, the kit, they're going to break it.
It's going to be no res. Okay.
Yeah, you know, it's going to be no res. If it's 1 deep, or sometimes even 2 deep, because they knew they couldn't res the second one. You know, or I assume they knew they couldn't res the second one, so it's like no res. But you know that, I mean, in my mind, you know, because you know, I feel like for me that would still be a win.
Yeah.
Because, well,
yeah, they're letting you in.
They're letting me in.
Yeah.
It's a free run, so it's like, okay, sure, you can give me the free run, and again, like I said, I can just take one free run per turn, use KD, professional contacts, build up the economy. So when we finally do res that ice, you know, I'll be ready with my other breaker, you know, my fem or whatever other abilities I need. Yeah.
So again, a lot of the players were new. How did you feel as a corporation or as a runner that was experienced going up against a corporation that was inexperienced? Or did you feel you were able to take advantage of that a lot, or?
I was a little bit less scared.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I was less scared about, say, running into an out-of-faction roto-turret.
Okay.
I mean, as a kid, that was one of my biggest fears because I was like, if they're too deep, I break the first piece of ice, I run the second piece of ice, it's a roto-turret. And unless I have my fem out, that's going to get me, you know. So, and again, like I said, people weren't present ice. I was actually afraid of your second piece of ice, you know. And if you make it seem like your second piece of ice is going to hurt me because I don't have my sentry breaker, you know, there's a chance I could jack out. I don't know. It depends on the situation. But if you res the first piece of ice and make me think that the second piece of ice is a sentry, it can scare me. But, you know, like not a lot of people would, you know, do that. People wouldn't scare me. I rarely ever got like the sentry vibe off people. You know, I didn't get the feeling that this person is being aggressive and trying to hit me with ice that can hurt me. So I felt pretty safe. A lot of times, even just with my breakers out, with you know, blind running. If I got a good read on something, just blind running. Yeah.
So would a piece of advice for new players from you be to run more traps?
I think it's a good idea. I mean, as a new player, I think it's kind of intimidating to run traps because you don't. When you first start, you don't know what's a good sell. You don't know if you're selling the trap correctly. But I think it is a good idea to run, you know, some traps or you know, things like neural katana or roto-turret where you hit the other guy, just to kind of keep them on their toes.
Right.
Some decks are better at that than others. You know, when you play against Jinteki, you're kind of always on the toes as the runner because you're thinking, oh well, any run he can hurt me, and I have to make sure my hand is managed. Other corporations aren't as good at doing that, but if you can give the runner a little bit of fear, you can get away with things sometimes that you know you shouldn't be getting away with, but he has fear. Like I said with the Scorched Earth thing, you know, they were playing around my Scorched Earth. That was nice. That gave me a little bit of breathing room. And it would have been even better if I actually had the Scorched Earth, and they could look at it on the top of R&D and go, oh, I should be looking out for that. You know?
I got to make that money to get the Plascrete out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll start drawing for my Plascrete, absolutely.
I mean, hey, if they draw for their Plascrete and play it, and I never get the Scorched Earth, that's not even that bad anyway.
Yeah,
Because I'll have to play my card. Yeah.
You're controlling their play by not having to do anything other than have the one card in your deck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a good corporation. It's good to do a little bit of that because the runner starts the game ahead. You know, you have to let the runner convince himself that he's a little bit behind, because you're the corporation. You can do.
So what would be some advice that you'd say as a corporation that they can do to help balance out, play-wise, the imbalance of wins between corporation and runner right now? You won all your games as corporation, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you only lost one as runner.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the main strategy of my corporation deck was, you know, it was essentially a little bit risky. You know, I would just put out maybe 2 pieces of ice on a remote with an agenda behind it and a big agenda. You know, so that was my goal. Get one big agenda early, and if it's an executive retreat or an atlas with counters, that can give me the gas to keep going for the next one. That was the whole thing. So, what would I recommend? I don't know. I mean, You can
Do you
be
feel
aggressive
like
that,
as new players, do you feel like as you saw new players playing this corporation, that they were unwilling to let one agenda go in order to score the next? One thing I know specifically with Wayland players is that they will score, they'll put down an advance twice, either a hostile takeover, which they might just score command, but if it's a posted bounty, they'll let it sit there on the board. They can afford to let it sit on the board. And it looks like a government contract. So you can put that out there, let the runner score it, it's worth a point, and now because your ice is so taxing, they probably won't be able to run the next turn.
Sure. I mean, I think that's a really good strategy when I'm able to pull it off. I mean, the Wayland deck, if I were to play that deck again, I would include the Scorched Earth, and I mean, my agenda setup was hostile, takeover, Atlas, executive, and 3 executives, and I think 1 priority requisition. If I were to play it again, I would definitely take out priority requisition and put it in the posted bounties because of the strength of the ability to do like what you just said and tax the runner. Okay, you took my 1-point agenda, fine. The 3 points waiting in the wings, you know.
That's one thing I've really found playing the NBN deck I'm currently playing, where my points are much more spread out. I'm really finding it worth running those 15 agenda points in smaller cards, in fewer cards, fewer point cards, than in one big lump sum card, because that can just drastically change the course of the game. So.
Sure. I mean, and that's what you try and do with with your trap cards too. But I think you just can't run that many traps.
Right.
1-point agendas can win you the game too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I were to play that deck again, I would definitely include the posted bounties, and in doing so, also include the Scorched Earth and the Sea Sources. Yeah.
What are some upcoming cards you've seen previewed so far, and are there any upcoming deck types? Maybe the Kaisia suite for the Anarchs, or the new Wayland identity, Grendel. Are there any cards you've seen that you're really looking forward to being able to include in your decks?
As for the new Wayland, I'm not too excited about it because, I mean, so you get 10 credits and 1 bad publicity, right? At the beginning. So you get, a 5 credit boost, but you get rid of bad publicity, which I don't think it's much better than the original Wayland, because the original Wayland, playing your transactions, you're going to get, 3, 4, 5 credits off your transaction boost every game, maybe 6, so it's going to be a big help. So do you think the 5 credits at the beginning is going to be better than the bad publicity you're going to have to take? I mean, is it worth the trade-off? I don't think so. Like I said, I like the strategy of, I can just throw down my big agenda with 2 pieces of ice and res it, and the 10 credits at the beginning would help with that. But I hardly ever have trouble as long as I get like hedge fund, green level, whatever.
Right.
The transaction economy is already super fast. I don't need the Grendel. Let's see, what other cards did you mention?
If there's just anything that you've seen previewed that you feel like you're excited to make a deck about with any of the other identities that came out in Creation and Control.
Let me see.
You played Shaper and Wayland this time. Do you think next tournament you'll play something different? Will you try a different corporation? Will you try and refine your current decks?
Next tournament, I'd have to play a little bit, but I was thinking about doing Andromeda because, like I said, I really like the economy I had in the kit deck with professional contacts and a lot of events that score you money, things like that. And I think that could really successfully slot into an Andromeda deck, which is kind of, Andromeda has a big hand. She wants to play fast money cards at the beginning. The 9 cards help you hit your key economy cards, professional contacts. That's your key economy card. So that kind of economy would be great with Andromeda. I already think is a pretty good runner. So yeah, I would look at Criminal. I mean, Shaper has a lot going on for it, and Anarch's really good. I've never really played a lot of Anarch, but I understand that they're good. I would definitely look at Andromeda. It's something with a nice economy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about on the corporation side? Do you think they'll stick with Wayland, or do you think any of the other corporations have something that you're gonna?
I would play about any of them except Jinteki. I mean, just because I think Jinteki is actually better, you know, in the right hands than some people make it out to be. It's just those aren't my hands. I'm not going to be the one to make the good Jinteki deck.
Okay.
So I would play Wayland again. Like I said, I would run the sources. I would play NBN. I like the world. The world is yours. The newer NBN.
Yeah, the newer NBN.
Small deck. You know, really good agendas with NBN. I would definitely play NBN. I would play HB. I mean, they can fast advance. They have good ice. That's hard for.
Yeah, they're very well rounded.
Yeah, yeah.
They can play just about any of the games that the other ones have. They have some traps like Jinteki. They have economy like Wayland, and then they have some.
Yeah, and then they have the cheap
fast
Roy
like,
ice. They have the fast advance.
So.
I mean, you know, HB's got a lot going on for them. I think I would pick NBN or Wayland if there was a tournament tomorrow. NBN or Wayland.
Okay.
NBN fast advance, Wayland. You know, score stir, transaction economy. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Daniel. Congratulations on your first win, and we hope to bring you guys some more videos like this in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, dude. Appreciate it. Hopefully we'll be able to get some